I will assume the chair for the time being and begin my questions. And my first question is to Dr. Honeycutt. The EPA admits that much of the control technology to comply with these new standards does not yet exist. I think the latest estimate is only about 40% of the emission reductions can be attained with the current control technology. Can you give me some idea how Texas plans to comply with this if we're dealing with basically a black box?
I wish we knew. Most of the sources out there are vehicle emissions or non-road emissions. So we're going to do something with those, and we're really not quite sure what yet. This is uncharted territory for not only Texas, but for most of the country.
Well, I think the answer is going to be that you will shut down whatever industry is producing these ozone emissions that prevent you from meeting these reduction standards. So if you don't have the control technology to install, and I used to work earlier in my career, worked for combustion engineering in their environmental systems division, so I have a pretty good idea of what it costs to design, build, and install this equipment. You can't design, build, and install stuff that doesn't yet exist, so the only option is to shut down whatever's producing the emission. So would you concur with that?
I think at this point in time, everything is on the table.
Okay. In regard to these issues of air quality, and I pointed out in this hearing before that since 1980, our GDP's gone up 467%, vehicle miles have gone up 94%, population's increased 38%, energy output's gone up 32%, yet emissions have gone down 50%. The air is demonstrably cleaner than it's ever been. Our economy is continuing to grow. I think when we talk about the balance between health and economic growth, one of the interesting things, and asthma has been mentioned several times here, is that there's peer-reviewed studies out from the medical community, including UCLA, that indicates that even though air quality is dramatically improved, asthma rates have spiked, and it's, and particularly in California, the UCLA study, Mr. Sadredin, that the single biggest predictor is low income.
Right, Mr. Chairman, people often misstate the impact of air pollution on asthma, claiming that air pollution actually causes asthma. That is scientifically, there's little evidence of that in science. We're talking about exacerbation, and if you look at cases of asthma in some of the more pristine areas on the coast in California, asthma rates are going up at a much higher rate compared to Los Angeles and Central Valley, where air pollution is higher. So the relationship is not there, but it's something that tugs at your heart when you talk about children with asthma, and that's a good bumper sticker sort of a justification for the enormity of the Clean Air Act that we're talking about. In San Joaquin Valley, we have reduced pollution by over 80% over the last 20 years. We've imposed the toughest regulations you can imagine on farming operations, agriculture, dairies. Unfortunately, some of my colleagues from urban areas, they think food just shows up on the grocery shelf somehow magically, and they don't really understand all the work that has to go into producing it. We're at a point in our region with double-digit unemployment and low level of education with a large portion of our Hispanic population. It is very difficult to envision a scenario where we can meet this new standard without having to actually shut down businesses, as you mentioned. And that's the point I wanted to get into. Congressman Lofgren introduced a letter from Central Valley Air Quality Coalition earlier saying that everybody's okay in California with this. The same group had actually recommended to our agency that we have no farm days, no construction days, no drive days. And we're not talking about a day or two here and there. We're talking about 100 days a year during summer having no commercial activity, and they thought that's something that's reasonable.
Dr. Honeycutt, if you'd like to respond in the time that I have remaining, but I would like to, the NARA study was mentioned earlier, those numbers have been adjusted to reflect the new standard that the EPA is requiring. And it is a devastating impact on the economy, if you'd like to respond.
Sure, just real quickly, as far as asthma causation, Gina McCarthy testified in July of this year in front of this committee that ozone does not cause asthma, as did a minority witness earlier. However, EPA says that it is likely causal, that ozone likely does cause asthma, which is the same designation they give to premature mortality, total premature mortality, and which the benefits are based on. So that's why there's some confusion, is because EPA says one thing and Gina McCarthy said another thing.
Thank you. My time has expired. I would now like to recognize the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westerman.